I'm Sebastian St. James. There is a battle. A battle between the biggest miners in Australia and the biggest tech in the US. Who will win? And where should you invest if you want to be rich? In a previous video, Phil says, would the ASX 300 Metals and Minerals outperform the NASDAQ? To find that out, we need to meet a professional wrestler. And is my latest channel member, Robert164. As a professional Australian wrestler, Rob works out. And he does this by hauling mining equipment for BHP. The Australian stock market is broken up into sectors: energy, consumer discretionary. And in a previous video, we discovered that mining and minerals were the best performing sector. So Rob is 100% invested in the ASX 300 Metals and Mining Index. Which makes sense. If mining stocks outperform everything else, why not go 100% mining? But Fluffy disagrees. Who's Fluffy? Oh, I just got a thanks from Bunno Bear. Really enjoying your videos. I don't have a join button. Is your membership still open? Thank you very much, Bunno. Yes, my memberships are still open, but there does seem to be a problem between YouTube and Apple. So the workaround is just to use a browser and you'll find the join button there. Oh, it seems to have worked. Part bunny, part bear, it's Bunno Bear. Bunno has a problem. Rob's mining equipment is destroying her forest. Well, that's terrible, and Bunno doesn't trust that mining stocks are the way of the future. So Bunno is 100% invested in the ASX 200. But why limit yourself to Australia? If you travel on the information superhighway, why aren't you investing in that? Oh, it's my channel member, Tim Holder. Tim travels on the superhighway, which is the name that he gives to his helicopter. Tim believes that tech stocks like Google and Apple are where fortunes are to be made. So he's 100% vested in the NASDAQ-100. But Smiley Dennis disagrees. So he's 100% invested in the S&P 500. And if you want to find out what you look like in my world, just become one of my channel members. It's Australia versus the US. Mining versus tech. Who will win? And which investment will reign supreme? Oh, I just got some thanks from Elmo. Thank you very much, Elmo. That was very nice of you. And I noticed Elmo watched Protect Yourself from a Market Crash. I must watch that video and find out how. The competition has begun. It's US stocks versus Australian mining versus US tech. Now, the US stocks have all been converted, so all stocks are in Australian dollars. But there is a problem, and it has to do with franking credits. Oh, I see the problem now. The ASX 200 has the franking credits added in, but with the metals and mining stocks, no franking credits are available. Whoa! Whose fault is this? Why don't we have franking credits? This is an index created by the S&P, but on their own index, they don't actually supply any information about franking credits. Boo! 2 thumbs down, but fear not, there is a solution. We're comparing the ASX 200 against Australian mining stocks. Now, most of them are in the ASX 200 anyway, and therefore their level of franking credits are likely to be very, very similar. So we can compare apples with apples just by removing the franking credits, keeping the dividends, and comparing them head to head. Which is what we've done. So all our indices are total return, which means price plus dividends. It's time. Time to see who wins. Here is the 1-year graph, and as I zoom in, green clearly is the winner, and green, oh, that's the NASDAQ-100. Whoa! Over the last year, the NASDAQ has returned 40%. Mining sector only 10%, and a paltry last is the ASX 200, which includes dividends. I shall award points based on your performance. So I'll give 4 points to the NASDAQ and 1 point to the ASX 200. Here is a 3-year graph, and the winner is... oh, I can't tell. Please explain what's going on there. If we look at the compound annual growth rate, we find the top three are very close, but the NASDAQ did eke out a win. So if I sort by total points, NASDAQ is still at the top and ASX 200 still the unlucky last. Oh, I just got a thanks from Tim Holder. Thank you very much, Tim. That was a lovely surprise. And Tim's thanks pushes his questions further up the queue. Oh. Here are the 5-year results. Green is clearly the winner. Oh, and that's the NASDAQ again. Yes, 20.3%. And the loser, well, that's still the ASX 200. And we notice that metals and minerals are actually in second place. Oh, way to go. And the winner is, oh, it's green again, which is the NASDAQ-100. And this is all the data I have in my graph, 10.4 years. On 16 points at the top, the NASDAQ-100. The mining sector and the S&P 500 neck and neck. And on 4 points, the ASX 200 didn't win at all. Whoa. Let's add in the actual percentages to see what they were. And that answers the question, who is the winner between the NASDAQ-100 and the metals and minerals? Clearly, it's the NASDAQ. But we are missing something. Most Australian stocks come with franking credits. Shouldn't we be including those? Even though the Standard & Poor's refuses to give that to us, I have a secret power. It's called the Australian Taxation Office. And the ATO gives out the average dividends and franking credit yields. Ooh. And our stocks are part of the All Ordinaries. Now, we've got the dividends already, but those franking credit estimates would be nice. And this year, 2023, the latest data they've got, which is September, the average franking yield is 1.38%. It's time. Time to add in the franking credits and get our final answer. This is the leaderboard so far. Will adding in the franking credits make any difference? Oh, doesn't change the order at all. So, based on our data, the NASDAQ-100 does outperform the ASX Metals and Minerals. And Tim couldn't be happier. Good for you, Tim, but what if you specifically wanted to buy Australian? Let's say you are focusing on dividends, so only True Blue will do. Then, would the mining sector make sense? Well, metals and minerals over 10.4 years did outperform the ASX 200, well, by more than 3%. Yes! So metals and minerals could be a good option for you to consider. Elmo has discovered a problem. When you give a thanks to my channel, YouTube takes 30%, and if you go through Apple, they take another 30%, and therefore the creator, well, they get whatever's left. Elmo asked, is there another way of sending thanks to this channel? So I created one. In Australia, there is a system called PayID, which is available to all Australians through your regular bank account. I've set up a PayID for this purpose, but I also need to know what your YouTube name is. So the first time, just shoot me off an email so I can connect the two. Of course, this is just an additional option, and you can always send thanks through YouTube as per normal. We have tested our stocks over 10.4 years because that's all the S&P 500 will give me when it comes to the mining stocks. But I have found another graph, a way of peering back through the mists of time. And here it is, the ASX 300 Metals and Minerals in orange against the plain ASX 300. And that graph goes all the way back to 2001. Whoa! Which is 22 years of data. Well, that's impressive, but the question is there an ETF that will get me into the ASX 300 Metals and Minerals? Oh, I just got a thanks from Elmo through PayID. It's a good start to the week when SSJ shares another episode. It's a bit like receiving dividends, only better. Yes! Thank you very much, Elmo. That was a lovely surprise, and it's very much appreciated. And I still have a few more people to thank, which I'll do in my next video. This ETF tracks the exact index we're talking about. But it's closed. Oh, boo. Well, that's not acceptable. But don't worry, there are some ETFs that cover the same sector. There is QRE, which covers the Australian resources sector, and they track the Selective Australian Resources Sector Index. There is a VANEC Australian Resources ETF, which tracks the MVIS Australian Resources Index. Yes, of course it does, but what if you enjoy the raw power of owning mining stocks yourself? Well, the ASX 300 index does actually list off its top holdings. Like most indices, it's a weighted index. What's the weightings? The S&P doesn't tell us. Pathetic. So I decided to do the calculations for you. Down the left you see the stocks. Next we have the market cap as the making of this video, so they're right up to date. And of the stocks I've shown on the screen, I've given you the weighting percentage based on their market cap right now, and they add up to 100%. Well, that sounds good, but what if I wanted to earn $96,000 from dividends? Sounds like an awfully specific number. Click here to find out, or if you've seen that, click here.